All right, so welcome to your first middle college success session. These are meant to be kind of a continuation of the stuff that we talked about at orientation and during seminar through the fall. It'll be stuff that you should be focused on or working on at that time. Lots of reminders about like staying on track for your degree and your high school diploma. And for this first thing, we want you to do this reflection to kind of help you think through what went good, what went bad about your first semester. And we'll kind of look at how things went overall and kind of what are some good things that could come and some bad things that could come depending on how that first semester went for you. So if you are watching this recording, this link will have been emailed to you, and I'll also email this to everyone. Everything that we look at today, I'll send these links to everyone, whether you're here present on the Zoom right now or watching the recording later on. So, of course, so this is the Bean in Chicago, a big reflection thing. This presentation was made by our old director, Mr. Spencer, and I'm keeping his corny dad jokes in there. And if you had a chance to meet him, then you'll remember that that's just kind of how he was. So we're going to talk about just kind of news and updates. That's a big part of why we do these success sessions, is just that once you guys get going with your college classes and you're doing your high school stuff there and your college classes at SE4, we rarely see you. So we want to make sure that everybody's getting the news and updates. We're going to talk about the first college semester, reflecting and learning from that. And then a big chunk of what we're going to do today is to look at the SAT and the MSTEP, and just kind of do a brief look at what that is. And then a big thing that we're going to talk about is how to prepare for that and the resources that are out there online that are free. Okay, so the drop-in ad deadline has passed. I think we've all been getting in the office lots of emails about asking to change your class or change your instructor. And I know we talked about it at orientation, but I don't think we were as explicit maybe as we should have been. But the first week of the semester is the only time that you have to drop an ad. So like if you had shown up to your psychology class and you're like, you know what, this isn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be, or I'm looking at the syllabus and this looks like it's going to be really tough, or something about this instructor rubs me the wrong way, you have to make that decision in the very first week of class. Colleges all work that way. It's not like high school where you can change kind of into the semester a little bit. It's usually just the first week that you have to make those changes. So at this point, no changes can be made, and it's time to just like dig in, complete, adapt, ask for help, see one of us if you're struggling. A lot of times people kind of freak out and are thinking, well, I missed the first test because I couldn't get something working on Canvas, or I got a really bad grade on my first paper. It's okay. There's more than those one first grades. And I know things can look really bad at first with that one big grade being bad, but there is a lot of time to get that to a better place. And that's what we're here to help with. Your instructor is there to help. Tutoring is available. And so we would really want you to dig in and kind of keep trying. There is the option to withdraw a class, but there's a lot of consequences to that. There's a lot of things to consider with that. And you do have until April, like at the end of April 22nd to do that. So that's why at this point we would tell you, keep trying. But if you try all the things that we suggest and it's still not going well, withdrawing might be the best choice, but that's something that would be decided later. But definitely ask us for help right away if this is the boat that you're in. These will not advance. Okay, so enrollment for the new class has begun. So you might remember a year ago, kind of going through that individual meeting that we had to do all of those pretty much on Zoom. So you met with one of us, with your parents, and we kind of talked about how this all could look for you based on what you were interested in doing. And we're doing that for the next group right now. So spread the word to your friends, family, classmates, be a positive representative. Send anybody to me by email or have them call me if they have any questions. Have them talk to your counselor at the high school and just let us know if there's anybody that we can help kind of make those decisions. And part of that reflection that we're asking you is just kind of what would you say to yourself a year ago? Would you do this all over again, or would you maybe warn people away? And it's okay to be honest about the challenges that go along with all the positive stuff that's part of being in the middle college and college in general. We're hearing kind of some whisperings that this may affect us again this week, but snow days. So we did have those snow days a couple weeks ago, and SC4 did close. That's not always the case. Sometimes the high schools will close. A lot of times what's not safe for like a bus at 6:30 in the morning out on a back road is pretty fine for a person driving a car slowly and taking their time. And usually sometimes high school will be canceled, but I go to work at 8 and it's totally fine. But there are times where if it's really bad, the college will cancel. Hopefully you have all gotten signed up for the SC4 alerts. But if you still need to do that, maybe I'll send that link along with all the other things. I believe it's sc4.edu/alerts. And it takes you to a thing where you set up an account and you can get like text updates if the college closes. If the college is open and your instructor hasn't canceled class and your parents are like, there's no way I'm going to let you drive. You just got your license. You're not driving to campus. It's not safe. That is okay. It's just up. You're kind of making the decision to miss class and then accept the consequences. But I would say most of the time, if the weather is legitimately really bad, your instructors are going to be understanding. Same goes for if you're sick. We're kind of getting a little bit back to normal where people are just normally sick. And we've had a lot of stuff go on where people have either gotten COVID or been exposed and had to quarantine. All of these things, if you ever have to miss a class, the number one thing is to make sure that you communicate with your instructor and keep up with the work. You don't get an extension most of the time if you do miss, like you might miss a Tuesday class, and if you still have a test on Thursday, that test is going to happen and you're going to be expected to take it. So those are things that you need to make sure that you're staying on top of and communicating with your instructor. Sorry, this is going slow. But okay. So we have midwinter break approaching this weekend too. Most of you at the partner high schools are going to be off on Friday and Monday. That's nice for Friday because you don't really have college classes anyway, but SC4 does not do midwinter break. So if you have a Monday class, you still have class next Monday. So you might be off from high school, but still have to come to the college. Similar situation for spring break. SC4 does have a spring break, but it's a different week from your high school. The SC4 spring break is March 7th through the 11th. So you'll still have high school, but you won't have to come to college classes. So that's kind of nice. But then the week that you're off from the high school for spring break is March 28th to April 1st. And there are still SC4 classes that week. So if you are in town and not going anywhere, just get your butt to campus and go to class. But if you have something going on, your family planned a trip, it's nothing that you can control. That's something that, again, you just need to communicate with your instructor. I would say maybe start with one of us at the Blue Water Middle College, and we can kind of help craft that email or kind of get some talking points together to discuss with your instructor. But definitely communicating with them earlier is better so that if there happens to be something due that week or a test that week, that they would want you to get that complete before you go. It's not just go on spring break, come back and say, what did I miss? Like that's not how college works. Hopefully you are adapting to that by now. But if you have any questions about that, let us know. And then we're a little bit a ways, like registration for fall will open in April. And we will actually have another success session before that. And that's actually what the next success session will be about, is kind of preparing for registration, refreshing your memory on how to actually do that in the service center, and refreshing your memory on how to choose your classes, making sure that you're still on track for your degree, and planning out a good solid fall and winter next year to finish up any requirements you have for high school, if you're using college credits for any of that, or making sure that you're putting yourself in a good position to be able to finish in your 13th year. So finishing on time for your degree at the end of your 13th year, a lot of that lies in planning well for 12th grade. So that's a big thing that we will talk about, but we also recommend everyone to see an SE4 advisor, like either once a semester or at least once a year. And a lot of that might be, we did this, I have this worksheet, like you have the green for the science, the orangey color for the arts, that might be familiar from fall. You might just take that right to your advisor and say, I think I have my plan ready for next semester, but does this look good? And they would either confirm or say, oh, well, that's going to put you, might get you off track. So they can kind of check our work. SE4 is the one that's giving you that associate degree. So it's important to check in with them, even though we're teaching you how to plan and we can help you plan. Let's always double check it with SE4. They're on the second floor of the Welcome Center, and you can make an appointment by either just popping into the Welcome Center, calling them at 989-5520, or you can go to se4.edu/advising. There's a link within the portal. This kind of got combined, but there's a lot of different ways you can set that up, and I do recommend it. Another part that is important to kind of consider in the planning is that if you are going to one of the partner high schools and doing career cruising or Zello, it's important to take that and actually use it intentionally. A lot of times people ask, what's the best website where I can find out, I want to go into marine biology. What schools have that? What do I need to major in? Is there marine biology majors, or am I majoring just in regular old biology? Career Cruising and Zello are the place, that's the best tool that I've come across that has everything in one place, where you can really start with that end goal of what you want to do for a career, find out what kind of education that you need and where you can get that education. You can search by states. So if you know, I'm staying in Michigan, I need to get that in-state tuition, keep it as cheap as possible. It's a great tool for finding that, but it also, you can search by other states. If you're like right now thinking I need to get out of this cold as soon as possible, I want to look in Texas and Florida, you can search that way too. So it's a really cool tool. I know that because it's required for you at the high school, sometimes people get in the mindset of just kind of like checking off the task to get to the 100% complete, but it is a really helpful tool. And this is the time to kind of start doing that research, especially because you're going to be ahead of your classmates already by having this college credit done. So when you transfer on to a four-year school, you're going to go in with a lot more credit and kind of have to choose what you're going to focus on a little faster than somebody that's just like transferring in their freshman year, like your classmates that aren't doing middle college well. So the first semester went really well for everybody. Well, not everybody, but overall on average. So all middle college students, we have, I think around 500 students, and took a total of 1,214 total courses. So like you took two, that contributes, one person taking two class, or 13th year students are taking more. 38% were an A or an A-. And for you first year students, that was exactly the same percentage. So that is awesome. That's a really great high number. Another 26%, their grades were B+, B, or B-, which is also really good. And for you guys, you were actually above the average middle college student, and more of you had B's than kind of the average student. We also, your class was higher and as far as grades that were C or higher. So if you remember, I know we talked about this a lot at orientation and throughout seminar, that C is kind of that magic grade that it transfers. If you're doing one of the arts, science, gen ed degrees, or doing the MTA to transfer onto a four-year school, it needs to be a C or higher to count for a lot of the requirements. And so 77% of the regular students did that, like overall, and 81% of you got that in your first semester classes, which is awesome. That's a really, really good thing. sorry, I just saw a couple chats, and people bragging on their grades, which I love. It was a good semester, and I hope we're seeing kind of those numbers start to rebound. We did have some of these numbers have been lower, like during the COVID semesters, but we're getting a lot more back to normal, and that's a good thing. So if you were on that end of it and had a GPA that was 3.0 or higher, and you had at least 6, like very few of you had 6 or more credit hours for that semester, but each semester they do the president's list. So if this semester, probably most of you, your 2 classes do have 6 or more credit hours. So if you get a 3.0 or higher, then that puts you on the president's list, which is like honor roll or dean's list. Excuse me, every semester that you're on there is a great thing to put on your resume. Later on, you'll say, I had 4 semesters where I was on the president's list, when you list an awesome GPA on your resume for your time at SE4. The other thing is once you have completed 12 or more total credits, if you're still, your overall GPA is at a 3.0 or higher, then you would be invited to join the Phi Theta Kappa, which is like NHS, it's the College Honor Society. So it would probably not even necessarily be at the end of this semester, but at the end of next fall semester is when most of you would hit that 12 credits and be eligible for that. So keep an eye out for that. Phi Theta Kappa, you are invited to join. It's kind of, there's benefits to actually like participating, but you don't have to. You can just sign up, pay the entrance fee, and then become a member. Pretty much every college has just a guaranteed scholarship if you're in Phi Theta Kappa. So it almost always translates to money and scholarships later on that definitely outweighs the cost of joining. But I think it can be kind of expensive. I think it's like around $100 to join. So some people join and do all the volunteering and leadership stuff that they do. And some people join and just throw it on the resume, which whatever path you want to choose is totally fine with that. On the flip side, we did have some people struggle in this first semester, and we do every year. That's natural. There's people that have kind of circumstances have led to struggling, or just have kind of been challenged by the different expectations of the college classes. Sometimes maybe people took an online class that they weren't quite ready for, or just had a hard time navigating Canvas or their expectations there. So these used to, in COVID times, used to be about 5% of the grades would be an E and about 5% would be a W. So these are still pretty high compared to the regular semesters that we used to have. It kind of always was that way. But you guys are doing better than the average here as well. So overall, all middle college students, 6% of the grades were E's, 8.6 were W's, where you guys were lower at 5.6 with E's and 7.9 with W's. If you are in this situation, most likely you're now on academic warning, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. But whenever you get an E or a W, it just kind of reduces your chance of graduating with that degree on time, which would be the end of the 13th year. That doesn't mean scrap this whole thing and be done with it. It just means that maybe you're going to get to the very end and have like 2 classes left that you'll have to make up and pay for like on your own after you're done with middle college. But a lot of times, if you've had 1 or 2 of these, we can do some advanced planning to make sure we're maybe giving you a heavier load next year or in your 13th year, and it might still be possible to graduate on time. So no one has to fail or withdraw. This whole thing of asking for help, whatever the problem is, there's a way around it. It's just sometimes it might take a lot more work from you, but that if that's the case, like that's kind of what you signed up to do with college. So it's just a matter of taking that on and finding out like what exactly to do. So we can help you, whether it's organization, content, like not understanding what the teacher is talking about, or just trying to find the stuff online, how to navigate an online class, anything like that we can help you with, but you just have to ask for help. So if you did end up with your GPA below a 2.0, so if your grade basically was a C- or lower, then you were placed on academic warning. and have probably been contacted by Mr. Stewart. He's our advisor that helps kind of with all of that, but he's doing a whole lot of stuff around success and kind of building people up, helping people get organized, helping people connect with tutoring, coaching people through talking to their instructor. If it's an instructor that you're like, I just have no idea what they're even talking about, I'm having a hard time connecting with the guy, I don't feel like he's being very helpful. Wherever you're at, whatever led to that, Mr. Stewart is awesome and can help you with it. So if he's reached out to you, definitely get back to him and do those meetings. When you're on academic warning, you basically have that semester to bring it back up above the 2.0. If you don't, then you're suspended from the following semester. So right now, anybody that struggled first semester and is on warning this semester, you would just be suspended for summer, which is you're not taking classes anyway. But it does create kind of a mess later on that I'll get to. But all of these are the things that Mr. Stewart will help you with, is kind of supporting you. But he does need your honesty. So a lot of times, part of it is, are you not sure of how you're doing, or are you just kind of giving him the best view of how things are going? But if you're not honest with him, he can't help you. And if you don't know where you stand, that's usually a big thing that he can kind of help you with. So if you were to be in this kind of boat where you'd be suspended for the summer, you'd be back on warning for fall and not able to schedule next winter until grades are in December. So it creates kind of a snowball of bad consequences. So if you are on warning this semester, really do everything you can to get yourself above that 2.0 this semester. If you are suspended ever for a semester, you would have to take like some high school classes online, because we do have to have all of our students be full-time, which means taking 6 classes between high school and college. I think that's it there. So online courses is a big thing that for the last 2 years, we've been hearing so much about how people hate online and saying they can't learn online, but we're actually still seeing a ton of people take a lot of online classes. And people are doing, it's very polarized. It's not the regular bell curve, if you remember that from statistics or anything you've done in your math classes, where usually grades are very few people get A's, very few people get E's, most people get somewhere in the middle. It's kind of the opposite with online classes, where people would do awesome or they really, really struggle. And so it's up to you to kind of know yourself and be realistic about that. If you've taken an online class in the fall and it didn't go well, or you're taking one now and it's not going well, don't register online classes semester after semester and continue to struggle. Just get into some in-person classes, get your grades back on track, and then maybe take on that flexibility later on. When we were in person for the session on Friday, I asked how many people took online classes and then how many people would do it again. And the majority said of the people that took online classes would not do it again. So it's really something that we used to really steer people away from, because it really does, you just learn more in person, communicating with your instructor and your classmates. But I know it's a great thing for flexibility, and we're all still kind of trying to get back into routines and like getting out into the world. But I really, really encourage you to schedule in-person classes as much as you can. If you're struggling with anything with an online class, like if it's just the Canvas stuff, especially, you really just need to ask for help. There's stuff that we can do. But we're still seeing, we're about 5 weeks into the semester, and I'm getting emails of like, I don't know how to get a code, like things like that, that really, those questions, if you can't get up and running, you need to ask them like right away, not wait this long. So the best time to ask for help is now, and just let us know if you need it. So reflecting on the first semester. So we're just gonna quickly pop out of here and look at the answers that were here. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how well have you enjoyed it? Seems like most people are at a 4. There's some that just love it, at a 5. We still have 0 that are at a 1 and just absolutely hate it, but I'm worried about you guys if you were at a 2 or a 3. If you're at a 2 or a 3, come and talk to me if you haven't already, and let's try to figure out how to make this more enjoyable for you, because I know it's a lot of work and it's a challenge, but it doesn't have to be that awful. Like, if we can't find some solutions for you, like, we'll figure that out, right? Oh, what happened here? Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Courses that were favorites. Seems like there's a little bit of everything. Speech, 2 for political science. But people are kind of entering their own thing, and that's awesome. What I think is most interesting is why. So interesting content and good instructors are pretty much always the front runners for why people enjoy a class. And then we'll kind of see down below, it's usually why people don't like the class too, right? So with that though, there are going to be classes where you're going to have an instructor that you're like, I can't stand this person, or I don't understand what they're saying at all. And, or the content might be boring, or whatever it is that's challenging you. Those are the things where we have to help you get through it, because you can't withdraw from every class that you don't like, or you will never finish a degree. And just you need to kind of complete some stuff, right? So if you're having trouble with if it's your current stuff, let us know. Not a fan of English in general. I like that. So I don't have a least favorite is awesome. There are some times when instructors are disorganized. So all these things, like in interacting with instructors, the things you're learning are good life skills as well for when you have that boss later on that you just absolutely can't stand, or that coworker that just makes no sense. All those are things that you'll get better at, and college will help you with that. This flipped on Friday. Most people had gotten some kind of support, but it looks like it usually is kind of right around 50-50. So the support, number 1 is meeting with one of us, which is awesome. I hope the people that have done that have found that to be helpful. Study groups, I've been impressed at how many people have done that. Meeting with instructors outside of class hours, like at office hours, that's the way to do it. Tutors, just a handful. So if you haven't done that and you think you could benefit from it, just let me know. We can help you connect with that. People are using the study strategies. Highlighting seems to be out of style. I'm surprised. That usually was a high one, but I hope it's working for the 20 or so of you that are doing that. Using your Chromebook to study is awesome. Most have not met with study group. We're going to also compile all these and send them to you. The majority of you have met with an instructor 2 to 3 times, or communicated with them at least. So that's awesome. 79.5% of you have communicated with your instructor. That's awesome. And the blue and the red says the majority said that was helpful. Now, if you were in this vote, the 27% that didn't make a difference, if you haven't let us know, please do that, because if you are asking for help and your instructor is not helping you, that is something that we should know and maybe pass on to SE4. Sometimes they may think they helped you and that you just didn't find it helpful. And that would be something to discuss as well. It's just kind of, sometimes there might be times where we'll just have to help you find some other resources if you're not finding them to be very helpful. A few people have reached out to SE4 clubs, which is cool. I did not join one, but I almost joined Nerd Club. I think you should. I've heard good stuff about that. Places to hang out, the Student Center building. SC4 library, those are usually front runners. The game room used to be a real popular place to hang out, but I don't think there's as much going on there right now, but hopefully that'll get back up and running. People know what their degrees are. So the rest of this is stuff that I think we'll compile and maybe get a little like page of tips and tricks. But thank you for your responses on these last few, and I'm going to try to start incorporating that when we talk to the incoming students for next year. So thank you for doing that. I hope it's helpful to kind of just think back. I think the moral of the story is that when people use the resources, they find it to be helpful. But I know that the hard part of that is just getting started. And so if it's just to come and talk to me, we can help you look up tutors. I will walk over to the tutoring center with you. I will do whatever it is. We'll get it scheduled together. But definitely ask for help, which I know I've said 20,000 times, and you'll hear it a lot more in the rest of your years with us. So kind of leaving the past behind, we're now talking about the future and preparing for the SAT and kind of why you should. You probably just kind of know that you should, but do you know exactly why or how? And that's what we're going to get into today. The MME is the Michigan Merit Exam. So that when people talk about standardized testing, that's Michigan's version of it. And in your junior year, it is the SAT, the ACT work keys, and the M-STEP. I believe you do the M-STEP most years, but the SAT and the work keys are kind of the main junior year test that you take. These are for the state just to kind of check in on how things are doing. That's why they give you this for free. But the SAT is what colleges are looking at to see, are you ready for college work? And you're going to have some evidence to show them that yes, you are, by the fact that you are doing college work, and you're going to have that transcript. But they're also going to look at your SAT score. Maybe, probably. There's some things that we'll talk about with that. So you would take the SAT on April 12th, which is a Tuesday. And then the following day, you would take the ACT work keys on the 13th, a Wednesday. And then the M-STEP is just set up at your high school, and they do it at all different dates. There's this bigger window of time that they have to do that. If you are still a Port Huron Northern student or Memphis or whatever partner high school you go to, you will still take the MME at your high school, and you'll just be wrapped into everyone else and take that Tuesday morning. If you were a homeschool student, unaffiliated, not attending one of the partner high schools, you'll take the MME, both the SAT and the work keys with us, and it's done right at SC4. Mr. Ruiz will be sharing an email with you and your parents with like all the details on that, but it's usually a little bit closer. Like I think in like March, he will reach out kind of about the logistics of that. But if you have any questions about anything, please let us know. The main thing that you should be thinking about right now is preparing for it. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But the point of it all is that the higher your score on the SAT, the more choice you have for colleges that you can be admitted to. You will apply as freshmen, I think that's here, to four-year schools. Once you're done with the middle college, you'll apply as a freshman. And sometimes that seems odd because people are used to thinking like, well, I'm going to have 2 years worth of college done, spread out over these 3 years with us. I thought I'd be applying as a transfer student. And the point of that is that the colleges are allowing you to apply as freshmen because there's more money available in the pool for scholarships for freshmen. So it's to your benefit to apply as freshmen. But in that, they will look at your high school GPA and your SAT score. And then your admission depends largely on those two things, but your SAT score is important with it. So don't just assume like, well, I've always done good on the standardized testing. I'm just going to wing it and I'm sure it will be fine and it will be good enough. Do the preparation. There's tons of stuff out there. But flipping back here, the higher your score on the SAT, the more choice you have. And we'll look a little bit at some colleges in Michigan and sort of what are the averages. The higher the SAT score, the more money you can get in scholarships. So it can make the difference of thousands of dollars. Your SAT scores could also be used for placement for your English, like to place into English 101 if you didn't with the AccuPlacer or you haven't taken that yet. And it's good practice. Practicing for the SAT helps you practice for taking these kinds of tests in the future. Unfortunately, for a lot of different industries and career paths, this isn't the last big test you'll take. This education, we have to take certification tests, real estate, accounting, most medical professions, you have to take tests if you decide to go to graduate school later on, like law school takes the LSAT, MCAT takes or medical students take the MCAT. So you may not be done, but some of you this might be the last big test you take, but just keep it open that you may have to take even more later on, depending on what you go into. So this is kind of just a little grid that we've been given that shows sort of the average GPAs and the average SAT score for different groups of colleges. So just for example, Michigan's kind of the big one that I hear people wanting to go to. Their average GPA of the people they accept have a 3.8 or higher. And then the average SAT score is a 1350 or higher to a 1600 is like a perfect score. If your GPA is lower than kind of these average ranges that for the college that you're thinking of going to, it doesn't mean to give up hope at all. I want this to motivate you instead. You have a lot of time left to impact your GPA. And you have a lot of time to prep for the SAT and get that score as high as possible. Also, a lot of times we hear one can offset the other. So let's say you're thinking about going to Michigan State and your GPA is only a 3.3, so you're not really in that range, but you get a 1300 on the SAT. That may make a good case for you there to get into that. Also in some of this, a good essay, a good story can help you and showing positive progress. So if you started out with some rough grades your freshman and sophomore year, like a lot of people over the last couple of years, but you come in and kill it this year, that's going to look really good. If you struggle this year in this whole adapting to making the jump from high school and adding in college, having a great year next year and showing progress will be really helpful. So wherever you're at, there is time to impact this, but it is getting closer to the end of that time. So it's time to really like kick up your efforts. Right now, so this is where you guys are in this kind of strange time where right now, a lot of colleges are test optional, which means they're not requiring students to even have taken the SAT or to submit scores. That might not continue forever and could be done by the time you're applying. We're already seeing some schools start to imply that they're going to require it next year, like for the people applying for fall of 2022 admission, or no, fall of 2022, most of them are still test optional, but the following year, 2023, we're seeing some people talking like they're going to require that again. I just lost my train of thought. There are, though, on the flip side, a lot of schools that have said we were kind of thinking about making that optional anyway. We don't think one test gives a good picture of what somebody is possible, like what's possible for them to achieve. And so there might be schools that just never bring back the SAT. All of that, though, I would say can't hurt you. Even the higher level schools, highly selective, like Michigan, Ivy League schools like Harvard are saying, if you take the SAT and you send our scores or you send your scores to us, if it's not enough to just tip into your favor for admission, we're just going to remove it from the application. They're not going to look at your SAT score and say, hey, this person has awesome grades, but this score is awful and we're rejecting them. That's not how they're doing it anymore. It did used to kind of be that way where people would send scores and it would work against them. They have all kind of said, if it helps you, it helps you. If not, we just don't consider it. So with that, I think there's really no downside to taking it and doing your best and preparing as much as you can. The other big thing is that most colleges, especially in Michigan, have a grid or have kind of these benchmarks for merit scholarships. So It's based on a combination of what is your GPA and what is your SAT score. And then it gives you a certain amount of money each year. So the big one at Oakland is that if you had a 1450 or higher on the SAT and you have a 3.9 or higher, you could get $12,000 a year, which is an amazing amount of money. But the $1,500 a year for a 3.0 or higher and a 1030 or higher is also really good. Combined with potential like need-based scholarships that you could be eligible for, that could make a huge difference. So it's important to kind of, I would say shoot for 1,000 or higher, but really if you get kind of an 1,100, 1,130, a 1,200, it's just going to keep bumping you up as far as what you can get. This is nice. They have this nice grid, but if you were to just Google whatever colleges you're thinking about and scholarships, like MSU scholarships, it'll take you to their page and kind of show you the different benchmarks that you would want to hit. It's worth maybe checking that stuff out now, but I wouldn't let it really like, I would really prefer you spend your time preparing for the SAT, because it's not like you're going to say, well, I want this 5,500. I'm only going to get a 1,300. You're going to do the best you can and see where you fall. That can be more the decider for should you retake the SAT later. I want you to kind of look at it that way. Most of the scholarship money does come from those merit awards, but there's a lot of other stuff out there, but that's a good like guaranteed chunk of money that you can get with a good GPA and a good SAT score. And what is that money worth to you? How much are you willing to put in for SAT practice, especially with all the free resources that are out there? Practicing hard should be a no-brainer. It's your best chance at significant scholarships, and it's just, that's like guaranteed money. So knowing about the test leads to higher scores. The familiarity you get from the practice leads to higher scores. Research has proven this for years. The biggest thing that I think is helpful is that it reduces anxiety. So a lot of times I see a question, can you retake the SAT? And yes, you can. And I will recommend it to almost anybody. Unless you get a 1,600 perfect score, even if you get a 1520, I would say retake it, because there's crazy things that can happen with a higher score. But yeah, so look at it basically that this April test that you're doing is just one free chance at the SAT. Back in our day, my day, your parents' day, we had to pay to take it. Back then we took the ACT, and we didn't have a free opportunity that our high school or the state basically paid for us to take the SAT once. So there also wasn't free test prep stuff. People would pay thousands of dollars to go to these classes to study. And now all that stuff is out there online. So all of those point to, there's a lot more opportunity for you to do well. And it's just up to you to take advantage of the stuff that's out there. But the number one thing I hear about people stressing about the SAT is, oh my gosh, I have test anxiety. Like there's no way I'm going to do well on this. The more you practice, the better that feels. And I really promise you that that's true. I haven't had anybody do the work and say that it just went absolutely awful or that they were freaking out. Most of the time when people tell me they freaked out, they do admit that they probably didn't prepare as much as they could have. And I'll show you kind of a couple of things that you could focus on and prioritize to really make sure that is the case. How are we doing with time? We're doing pretty well. So this video, I'm going to just send you the link for this, but this basically, well, you know what? It is actually helpful, and it's just a few minutes, and they'll explain some things faster than I probably would. So we'll watch it. So that's just kind of a little snapshot of how it all works. But Khan Academy is the free resource. They have partnered with College Board. College Board is the company that writes and prepares and gives the SAT. They also do the AP testing. Most likely you created a College Board account when you took the PSAT. And so that's kind of your first step, is to find that login. And so you can actually go to College Board, and if you go to the sign in, and again, I'm going to send you all of these links so you don't have to stress if you can't get to it real quick right now. But when you go to the login, if you don't have the stuff saved somewhere, you can just click forgot username and get that. Put in whatever email you might have used to create your College Board account. Different schools tell you different things. If you don't have an account, I would recommend using your personal, like a Gmail or Yahoo, because that's something that you'll have forever, and you will need to access College Board after middle college, after you're done with your high school email. Once you get your username, you could go back there and then do forgot password. So if you can't remember, like, you could try a few things, but if it's not working, I would just do this and get those. Because one of the big things they have said is that if you create a new account, like you click this, create a new account, and you have one existing, or it's not the one that you use with the PSAT, and it just creates kind of a nightmare later on. If you have like multiple accounts, it's hard to combine them. And so it creates some technical difficulties to get your scores. So really the first thing is making sure that you have your correct login. Then the other thing to look at, I think that was a pop-up. So looking at the SAT suite, this, the College Board page is helpful because it does have some stuff on this inside the test, or what's on the SAT. I'll send you all of these links, but this really goes through and explains how the SAT is structured, the different pieces of the test, what kind of questions are on there. I'll pretty much just kind of what to expect. This is also, there's a ton of this stuff also on Khan Academy. So looking at it one place or the other is fine. The SAT practice and preparation has a list of practice tests that you can go to, and where it has the whole deal. Like, you can click on it and it comes up with a PDF of the actual test, like what it looks like. So just to kind of look at an example, SAT practice test. So it brings up like what the actual test booklet is like. It's 64 pages, so I wouldn't recommend printing that whole thing. But if people are interested, maybe I'll make a test or two, a copy that you could borrow or just come in and look at and just kind of flip through. You can also see the answer sheet. We could print those very easily because it's only a couple pages, and then some scoring stuff. So this is nice if you wanted to sit down with like a pen and a paper, or pencil and paper, like you will when you take the SAT. But there's a lot of full length practice tests on Khan Academy, so it's not super necessary to print that out. That's kind of the gist for the College Board side of things. Where the majority of your prep is going to be is on the Khan Academy website. So let's see, I had gotten away from our thing, but basically it's just satpractice.org brings you to Khan Academy. There is this other page, cb.org/opportunity, which is a College Board page. And they have these scholarships that you can get put in the basically a drawing for by doing different steps of the college process. So if you go over to this page, which I will also send you, and click apply now, you will sign in to your College Board login and start building the things that they've asked for. So building a college list, which is basically just finding however many that they want you to have, saying like 5 different colleges. practicing for the SAT. If you link the College Board with Khan Academy and they see you doing practice, it enters you into the drawing for that. So all of these things, it will check some things off for you and get you into these drawings. So potentially there's up to $40,000 worth of scholarships. There's a ton of people doing these. So it's a lot of people that you're entered into a drawing with, but it's basically doing stuff that you would do anyway. So it's worth signing up over there. The other thing is that it is currently SAT practice kickoff week. And so if you sign up at this link, which I will send you, it will enter you also into that drawing basically on College Board, but you have to link your College Board account. So they kind of alluded to that in the video, but when you go to the Khan Academy page and click Let's Go, I think I'm signed in, so it's going to bring me right to my dashboard. But when you do that, it's going to prompt you to create an account and to link your College Board account to that, which I do recommend doing. I have not done that on mine because I just don't have any recent results for that. But when you log in and create your Khan Academy account, it will give you like this, you'll get the same dashboard with all of this stuff. So if you were to click here, sign into College Board, and then save your college, like basically just log in to College Board, which I'm not going to do because it'll do weird stuff because I'm an educator in one of these and a student in the other. It will link that and bring in all of your stuff from when you took the PSAT. So if it'll show like different skill levels. So it'll show how are you with your math, how are you with your reading and writing, and it will start to create kind of a study plan for you based on what has gone well and what hasn't on your previous tests. So the other first thing I would tell you to do is to choose your practice schedule. And so this is where you would put in a test date. So for you guys, April 13th is when you're taking that. And so you would enter that, click next. It will ask basically, when do you want to do some practice tests? So you probably heard in that video, one of the bigger things that they recommend is to take at least 2 full practice tests that like set aside the 3 to 4 hours and sit down and take the timed test. That's one of the biggest thing they say that decreases anxiety on the test because it gives you some practice with the timing of it all. A lot of times when people don't do well on the SAT, it's because they ran out of time. Some stuff is very quick and then some things take some time. And so that's why practicing that is really important. This will let you like choose some practice dates they're recommending for practice tests. So I would take the recommendations. This is probably because I have no record of having done anything. Maybe it's not going to recommend as many for you, but I'm going to say, yep, I'm going to do 4. And then it's going to ask like, how much time do you want to give it per day? 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. They're going to send you reminders. That's completely doable. And you can and should maybe give it more time than this, but that's a pretty good minimum to give it. And so basically 2 milestones. So then it has like this little progress bar at the bottom that will pop up and it'll let you kind of just navigate from here. So I'll show you kind of other ways that you can access practice quizzes, practice problems, different lessons based on the skills. If you are like, oh, I can't decide if I want to do reading today or I want to do math today, you can click next practice and it'll just bring you to some stuff. So it's kind of a low decision-making thing that you have to do. You can take these diagnostic quizzes that it prompts you to do. You can take a full test. All of these things will start to fill in, like we're in math right now. So you can kind of see, I did a couple quizzes at one point and I have these little 2 pie pieces in this bar for linear equation word problems. These other things I have none. So it means I either didn't get those right on a quiz that I took, or I just haven't done any problems like that. You can do these quizzes and tests. Let me go back to the dashboard and show you. So you could go right off the top. They're going to give you different recommendations that you can do. You can go right to math and choose. You could just work through topic by topic where you do a practice test. There are videos that show you actually how to do this, where it's the old, regular Khan Academy videos that explain it. There's a ton of stuff. Like you could spend hundreds of hours and go through every single little thing. But what they recommend is doing a lot of those practice, like the quizzes, these milestones, taking the advice basically from the practice plan that they create for you. There is, sorry, I keep forgetting to check the chat. There is going to be a recording of this. So if anybody's having technical difficulties or has to jet out, that's fine. There'll be a recording of this. Also, while I am looking at it, I'm going to probably do, we used to do a session where we really dug deep into this, did some quizzes, really kind of walked you through, like played around with this website, because there's tons of stuff out there. I'm giving you just a really brief overview of this website, Khan Academy, and how to do the studying. But if you would like a deeper look at this, I'm going to set up an optional session. I might do a Zoom and just kind of walk it through like this. And then you have that recording. If you wanted to look at stuff one-on-one, we can do that as well. But basically what I recommend is just kind of like getting logged in, getting an account set up, and start just sort of poking around. The practice stuff is where you can look at math, you can look at reading and writing, you can do practice essays. That'll show you kind of the prompt and how to write your essay. Tips and strategies is a link I'll send you. I really recommend reading through every link on this page. It really talks about what to expect, what is on the test. These are similar to what was over on the College Board website, but it's going to be more like from the angle of like practice questions. Time management strategies are really helpful to know about. And then the big thing that I really recommend doing as many of these as you can is the full test. So they say like you can log in and do just one section. You could do the whole thing. I would really recommend at least 2 times, probably very early, like maybe make that the first thing you do in your prep. Get a login, get a practice plan, do a practice test, take the 3 hours, and actually it will kick you out at the time limit, and it will really do that timing for you. Just do one of those, and that will give Khan Academy all kinds of data for what topics you're good with and you are comfortable with and getting right, and then what stuff are you getting wrong, and it'll start directing you to those topics to study more. But again, it really does help you with the timing and practicing that. But you can also just do a section and then come back and do the next section the next day, if that's how you want to tackle these, and that's fine too. But please do 2 full ones in the 3 hours. Review is where it's going to bring you to like things that you have done. You can actually like look and see what you've done. This sometimes is helpful. I have a lot of parents ask. So if your parents are kind of bugging you, like, what have you done? Have you been doing? You can show them what you've done. And this should hopefully be a pretty good list of stuff. As you can see, I haven't done stuff from January 2020, and then I just did one thing. So there's tons of stuff out there. It's really up to you. There's so much to explore and do. I've never heard of anybody running out of things to do, but I would definitely recommend taking advantage of the resources. Someone asked, is this required or is this optional studying for the test? You're not going to have to prove to anybody that you studied for the test. But this is what you would do to study for it. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, so that's it for the Khan Academy. The other thing, I did say I'll send you this link, but you could sign up this way and it basically enters you into like some drawings for different scholarship stuff. The SAT is required. I'm not sure if maybe that was your question. The SAT is required. You have to take that. And you would take that at your high school. So just to refresh, if anybody, I know people, it looks like some people have been getting kicked out, like probably internet wise, that you would take your test with your high school, and it's going to be on April 12th, Tuesday. Okay, so that's kind of it. But before I get to the end, if you have not put your name in the chat, please do that. I want to make sure I give everybody credit for being here. These sessions are not required, but this is, I hope you'll find good information that really helps you later on. This is kind of the stuff that right now I'm working with 13th year students in their final semester that did not take the lessons that we shared to heart, or didn't come to success sessions, or pay attention to the emails that we've sent, and they're behind, or things aren't transferring the way they want, and they're dealing with kind of the consequences of not taking the information. So thank you for coming. That means that you're making those first steps, and I really appreciate it. And if you're watching this recording, that's also wonderful. I should have said in the chat, if you would tell me yes, if you are interested in like an optional session where I really dig deeper into this, let me know. But I will just email everybody and offer that once I can get that set up and figure out how we're going to do it. If we'll do it in person or Zoom or a video, similar to how we did this one. So the final thing here is to show you this lovely spring picture of SC Forest campus. We're gonna be here before you know it. And right now is probably your hardest semester of high school. It's sort of historically, back in my day, they used to say that this semester that you take the SAT or are finishing up your junior year is really important, because you're kind of getting to the end of the time that you have to get good grades, right? And to have that GPA as high as you can get it before you start applying. You guys are lucky because you have a whole 13th year where you're also going to add to your high school GPA. But it's still an important semester for you with this whole SAT stuff. The next success session is going to be the first 2 Fridays in April. We'll have them in person, or the Tuesday between them. This Friday, April 1st, is when you're on high school spring break. So we did 2 different Fridays just in case. Obviously, you just have to come to one of these, or watch the video. And just let me know if you have questions. I will stick around. I'm going to stop recording and stop sharing in just a second. But as always, let me know if you have questions. My email, I should have maybe put on here, but it is weimer.tracy@sccresa.org. You probably already know that because you are here, and I emailed you the link here. So just anytime, ask me a question. I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording, and good luck the next few weeks, but we will see you again before